Now, today we have with us Professor Krishnan, who will be introducing the book to you. And Professor Krishnan is basically a chemist, and he has done his post-graduation and research in archaeology. He was the professor, department head of archaeology in ancient history in Maharaja Sayajirao University of Baroda. Then he was the former dean of the Faculty of Arts. He was the vice president of the International Association of Ancient Heritage until 2015. He was an advisor to many of the foreign students in the university for about 4.5 years. His specialized area of research has been on artifacts analysis and interpretation of the same, ceramic petrology, environmental archaeology, origin and development of urbanism in South Asia, and intangibles. His postdoctoral research in Cambridge University was completely investigating the prehistoric and early historic ceramics. Inspired by him, lots of students have taken research from South Asia, Europe, and America. He has MA dissertations of 100 plus, PhD students he has guided more than about 25, presently he is guiding about 12 students. He has conducted more than 200 lectures in India and maybe more than 100 lectures abroad. He has come out with 3 books and 70 plus research articles. Currently, he is a guest professor at IIT Gandhinagar. He is a professor in Durham University in UK and a nominated council member of Indian National Science Academy.
Distinguished guests on the dais, Dr. Subbaraman, Dr. Autobiography, and Shri Nagaraj, and dignitaries and book lovers who are sitting in the audience. Namaskaram. Actually, it's a very interesting kind of relation that I have with, or connection that I have with Dr. Subbaraman. 2 months ago, I was called by somebody from Ethics Society, and they asked me that, could you write a foreword for this book that is from Agenda to Angkor Wat? I said yes, but I would like to see the book before I write the foreword. So he sent me a copy of the book. I'm sure that the book may have changed a little bit after I saw it because it did not have any figures or anything like that. And I started reading it, and then I came across 2 names in that book. One was of one K.M. Luke, who was his classmate in chemistry in Loyola College. The other one was K.T.M. Hegde. Now, it is interesting that K.M. Luke happened to be Professor K.M. Luke, who was my professor at my PhD when I was doing, I'm a chemist and archaeologist. And Professor K.T.M. Hegde, the second person about whom he was referring, he was my teacher at Masters, as well as my PhD supervisor, and many things. So this is a very interesting kind of connection. Another connection that I noticed is that he got into archaeology from chemistry by an interesting accident. I also got into archaeology by accident. It's very interesting if you go through this particular book, that is Agenda to Angkor Wat, and the title is Conservation of Heritage. That is what he is saying. It's not just some painting or some monuments or something of that sort, because these represent the heritage, and he is trying to get into the major aspect of it, that is conservation of the heritage. Let me say something more. This is the first time I am introducing a book to an audience. I have written book reviews as an academician. So there may be some academic elements getting in which would be absolutely boring for the lay people, I know that. But please bear with me for that. Now, the first, his whole book is divided into 13 chapters. The narration is very interesting, excellent language and all. And the first one, it begins with excitement, an emotional excitement that he all of a sudden he comes to know that he has received his Padma Shri. He doesn't have any idea what exactly is the source of that Padma Shri. How did he, or who recommended him or anything of that. So still he doesn't know. I think it is better that he should not be knowing about that. That should remain as a secret. And there it goes on and he gets into the early part of the life, a traditional Brahmin, born and brought up in Agrahara, which has a lot of unity with a little bit of jealousy around here, because of course that person is doing this person is doing that. So there is always people keep a watch on you. That is what is happening in Agraharas. And also exposed to a lot of mythology, Puranas and all kinds of things, and believes in magics like, all kinds of that kind of social system that existed during the pre-independent India. That is very well picturized in that one. It's quite interesting to read that particular one. Then he gets into his school days, and I think I should say it because he secured 476 marks out of 600 in secondary school leaving certificates. My marks was much below this, more than 100 marks below it. I will not reveal the number, but it was much, but it's not easy. In 1946, to score this much marks, that is 79.3% for a student from village background, and without any kind of internet exposures or any kind of, the current facilities are much higher when you compare it with that. It is something unbelievable. He should have been, thank God he did not get into medicine or engineering or anything of that sort, because we got a very good conservator for Archaeological Survey of India because of that. Then it goes on, and then his college days at Loyola College, he gets into chemistry, and then he joins Loyola College for a salary of 99 rupees per month as a demonstrator. And from there he moves into a food research laboratory where he picked up almost all techniques of food analysis. For almost a year he worked there, then joins ASI. That is a time my professor also, maybe a few months before that, because Professor Hegde also did his BSc Honours in Chemistry and MA in Chemistry from Annamalai University, and he was preparing for civil service examination, and in between he was also looking forward to some job. Somebody told him that there is something called Archaeological Survey of India, you applied there. He applied and he got it. And he got the job probably a few months before or a year before Dr. Subbaraman. And they were posted under a person called Dr. Parameshivan, who is considered as one of those very pioneering workers in conservation part in India. Then he goes there and his training begins here. And there are very interesting episodes that he has written. I read this book 2 months ago, so whatever I remember I will say, okay? So if I have forgotten something, please excuse me for that. So, very interesting because they have to walk for almost 3 miles, I think. It is written as 3 miles or 3 kilometers, something to get to the cave in Tamil Nadu. It's a Jain cave in Tamil Nadu where there was some painting which they were conserving and preserving. And Professor Hegde was training Dr. Subbaraman at that time. And 3.5 kilometers walking, 9 o'clock, after having tea from a restaurant called Ravana's Restaurant or Surpanaga Restaurant, because the kind of Tamil sentiments against Ram was very much displayed in the hotel names also there. He remembers that in that part. So they had their breakfast and all, and they would go there and work till around 4 o'clock. And cleaning and painting, and doing the conservation of a mural or a painting is a very difficult job. Majority of the murals are on the roof. And you have to bend like this, and it is going to create a lot of problem for your neck in future. But successfully they were doing it, and I know, I have worked with Professor Ekde because he is a disciplinary. And morning he gets up and does his exercise and all those things. It is mentioned in that book, actually, evenings they used to come back and they used to play volleyball and all those things, so that they remain physically fit. Some of the archaeologists have this habit of, or kind of, deep love for remaining healthy. Our head of the department, we had a head of the department, Professor R. Mehta in MS University, and his excavation camps, which would run for about 2 to 3 months, compulsory physical training was there, and yoga in the evening. It used to be there. This is, I'm talking about 1960s and 70s. It was compulsory because everybody has to do it at least for half an hour, 1 hour, so that you physically remain fit. These people had that, and also they had some kind of very lovely relations in the village. But then the way an educated person perceives the village life is something very interesting that you can see in this particular book, where he is mentioning that. Then from there he gets a transfer to Ajanta. The story becomes different because Ajanta is a much, much bigger kind of space, and worked there for a few years. Then from there he moves to Indian Museum, Calcutta, if I am not mistaken. Huh? In 1966 he moves to Indian Museum, Calcutta, because see, the condition of Archaeological Survey of India, especially the chemistry branch, the number of positions are quite vacant actually. So there is a possibility that you may not get promotion even if you are highly qualified. So he had to move there. And there is a very interesting thing which is still remaining as an enigma that he says about the Jahangir period coin. I remember it because he tried to analyze what exactly is the material made of it. And it is giving a specific gravity 20. And, correct? Yeah, and actually it is very close to the specific gravity of gold, which is 19. So it is not as an alloy. And this was put in the silver section because its appearance and all those things were quite whitish and all. So he suspects that it is probably platinum or something like that. Now, he wrote it in, this is a story that was in 1976 or something like that. And afterwards, and I don't think anybody has done any analysis or anything of that. So almost 50 years have passed. And it's one of the very interesting kind of thing. And if it is analyzed and if there is a platinum gold alloy that is brought out, and then it has many other kind of cultural relevance, and also you can speak about the traditional Indian knowledge system, history of science, history of technology in the country, and many, many things. And also the knowledge of the people about the raw material resources and how did they extract those materials. It connects with many other kind of areas of research. Then from there he comes back finally, and he gets into Andhra Pradesh, I think, the Pakshi temple. That is one of the things. And the most important thing for which is worshipped, I should say, that is the term that I should be using, is a separation of those two murals in Tanjavur. It's not an easy task, because even touching a mural is not a very easy task, because the kind of work that the conservators do, first of all, to make it consolidating it itself is a complex kind of process. And they use some kind of material, some chemicals or some reagents, they use it for consolidating. Because there may be air gaps and all those things in between the mural and the wall, which might lead the mural to fall down. This is a very difficult thing because one above the other. Of course, one cannot use the term vandalism or anything there, because it was done by the Nayakas, and probably the Nayakas did not like that some part of that Chola painting was slightly disturbed. So probably they wanted to cover it, and covering the process, the whole thing probably, and of course I'm sure that the king who did it, he would have regretted later when he came and checked it. Shifting it was not an easy thing. First of all, to convince people that humanly it is possible. And that part is very well explained there. So then he does it almost 12 years. 12 years? Nearly 12 years he had to work there to do it. And today, last time when I went there, actually, I remember, this was probably about 3 years ago when I went to give a lecture in Tanjavur University. I had gone there and I saw that mural and all this. It was very, very impressive. Still it is, then I told those temple people that I know the person who shifted this. So that was something very, because it was a good kind of experience, I should say that. Then he had, afterwards, he also had involvement in doing some kind of conservation work abroad. Bamiyan Buddha image. I think it was the Archaeological Survey of India had done extensive work in that region, and unfortunately it was attacked by the terrorists and all those things. That is a different story. But the kind of concern that India had for that, and I remember in one of the chapter where he describes, he mentions former Prime Minister Atal Bihari Vajpayee's visit, but that time he was the foreign minister of Government of India, and he visited that place and he says that this is, of course, I am able to see this particular work going on very well. At the same time, I also have elements of pilgrimage in me, in my attitude, because I am seeing Buddha here, and you have been able to restore it to that perfection. Angkor Wat was another one, very, extensively he did it. Now, all these stories he has mentioned, that post-retirement, after retirement, people do not know what to do because they are extremely qualified, highly educated, and completely unemployed, like me. I am also now like that. So we do not know what to do. But then he had, because of the quality of the work that he had done, and also because of the kind of confidence that we others had in him, he was invited on the day of his retirement itself. He was invited to take up a project. Then he did many other temples, which you should be reading it, because if I start saying it, and who will read that part? So I should not be doing that. So they are post-retirement, and also as a member of the INTAC, he did a lot of work. Now, it is an autobiography. And what is the importance of reading an autobiography? This is something which we must understand. I have the habit of picking up books and reading many. I remember some of those autobiographies which I had read. That is, one was A Mathematician's Apology. That was by D.H. Hardy. And somebody asked him that, why did you become a mathematician? And he said that there are people who can do good things on this earth, people who can do bad things on this earth, and they all need to live here, and I can only do mathematics. That is why I became a mathematician. Similar is Chandra by Kamaleshwar Warrior. That is a very interesting biography, that at the age of 22, between this person, Chandrasekhar, is on his way to London to pursue his PhD in Cambridge. And standing on the deck, he is thinking about how the stars were born and how the stars were there and how do they die. The Chandrasekhar limit, that theory, that actually came up in that journey. He was 23, 24 at that time, for which he got a Nobel Prize when he was around 84 or something like that. There are many things to learn actually, and also The Man Who Knew Infinity. Then I have also read biographies of many artists and performers, because I have keen interest in performing arts. So I keep reading those things. And something that, what does it tell, There is a purpose of all of us to be here, because this world is, who created this world or who made this world to this level is something which we don't know. But every individual has a contribution in it. So, what the world is, see, he is narrating the world through his own perception. And I can do it from my perception, you can do it from your perception, the way I am reading his book, because this is the way I am reading it. And when you are reading it, it may be entirely a different way that you will be reading it. And also, then there are actually something who shaped it. And all those things, if you want to know, basically these things can be understood from the kind of different types of biographies. And this is one of those examples. And before I end, I want to tell you one thing. Why I respect this particular work is I can see work culture in it. Because that is something which we have lost. And from morning to evening, until the day of his retirement, he was serving Archaeological Survey of India and he was contributing his level best. I remember when I was in Cambridge, I used to have a teacher, one professor. He is retired now, he is around 80. He once told me that since you got a job in India, it is very good. So you should know one thing that, then he asked me, what is the population of India? I said, I don't know, maybe around 100 crores. Then he told me that you are a privileged person among those 100 crores. So you should do the work. This is how it is. Actually, he lived his life. He understood that he is a privileged person among the many people in the country. And whatever the job that was given to him, he did it with, from the bottom of his heart. So I congratulate him for making us understand what is the value of life and how one should live his life through writing this book. And I also congratulate the Mythic Society for taking initiatives in encouraging him and making him publish this book here and inaugurating it here. And then I should also say that majority of the Indians, actually we are losing the habit of reading now, especially reading in English language, because many of us are not very comfortable with that language now. So I think these things should be translated into maybe Kannada or some language, different languages. And I request the Mythic Society to take initiative of that. And I wish all the best for it, and thank you very much for inviting me. Actually, to me it is a great honor, because he is one of the persons who has got the highest civilian awards in the country. And I have never got any award, and I don't think I will get anything. But I have been given this opportunity. That itself is the greatest honor and award that I can get. Thank you very much.